aftermath is still very much alive. Pleading mothers in tears thrust letters and photos into our hands, begging David Cameron to help them find their disappeared loved ones. Good evening from Colombo, Sri Lanka. If David Cameron wanted to reawaken the world to the unresolved human rights crisis in Sri Lanka, tonight the Tamil people in the Jaffna Peninsula at the northern end of the island have ensured he has. Despite police battles and intimidation, they wept and pleaded that the very present issue of their loved ones missing after surrendering at the end of the Civil War 4 years ago must be resolved. Tonight, amid the gathering of the Commonwealth Conference here, we report the Prime Minister's attempt to mix diplomacy with strong-arm politics. This was the image Sri Lanka's controversial President Rajapaksa wanted, a prince and 50 heads of government paying respect in his court. David Cameron back and in attendance to shake the hand of President Rajapaksa, but later he told of his frank exchange of views over the state of human rights in Sri Lanka.
While I'm here, I'm determined to shine a light properly on what's happening in Sri Lanka, both in terms of what happened at the end of the war, but also the problems today.
Also on the programme tonight, the search for a missing British family.
Groups carrying photographs swarmed around his cavalcade at one point. He flew from the capital, Colombo, to a military airstrip just outside Jaffna, the first international leader to set foot in the region since Sri Lanka's independence well over 60 years ago. Once there, he visited a refugee camp, a library and newspaper offices. Some of what he saw at first hand, he said, will stay with me. The trip was short but effective. David Cameron had said he'd wanted to shine a light on the human rights issues that have dogged the run-up to this summit. I accompanied the Prime Minister. Here is my report. Etched by the beach, looking down from David Cameron's plane, we crossed the killing fields upon which some 40,000 people are estimated to have died in the closing weeks of the Civil War. Arriving in Jaffna, we were greeted by an immediate protest in pole position outside the Tamil First Minister's office. There was something odd about it. Investigations are needed for crimes during colonial period. I see. I'm beginning to see what this is. Yes. It's not a protest about... Yeah, this is very interesting because this is actually not a Tamil protest of any sort. Matching printed signs in English, people hiding their faces. This had the hallmarks of a government-arranged spectacle. Suddenly, at the far end of the road, there was a commotion. We ran as police jumped out of their trucks. We arrived to be besieged by women in tears, thrusting photos of their lost fathers, sons and brothers. Many of them had surrendered at the end of the war 4 years ago and simply never been seen again. They begged me and others to persuade Mr. Cameron to help them find out what had happened to them. 7 years ago.
Captured by the army.
They surrendered to the army. They were arrested by the army.
Captured by the army.
After the surrender, she has never seen them.
This photo printed on LLR's report.
Right, that is the surrender. By the time we had to leave, I found myself with a bundle of more than 100 letters for him. This demonstration too had its activists, but the genuine emotion was palpable too. Mr. Cameron then appeared on the balcony of the First Minister's office. The Tamil Minister had armed him with a list of strong demands for Sri Lanka's President Rajapaksa. It was as he left that the protesting mothers broke through police lines and surged around the Prime Minister's car. Still more ran towards our departing